Welcome to CyberSense Insights Connect, where we connect with our strategic partners, thought leaderships, and more, talk to all things cyber recovery and resilience. I'm Rob Mossi, Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Index Engines, and today my special guest is Bill Basinas. Bill is a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Infinidat, and he'll take a second here to introduce himself here in a minute. But we've been partners at Infinidat since the spring of 2023. And the focus is on the importance of leveraging both of our technologies within the InfiniBox family of primary storage. And this is a critical element in how they present their cyber recovery solutions. Bill, how you doing today? Why don't you take a minute to say hi to everybody?
Hey, Rob, how are you? I'm glad to be here. Hi, everybody. As Rob mentioned, I'm Bill Basinas. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing for Infinidat. I've been here for, coming up on 3 years now. I'm an industry veteran. I've been in the data protection, data recovery industry. Basically cut my teeth in data backup in 1994. Have worked for startups and large enterprise companies like EMC and HPE. And I've been, again, the last 3 years here in Infinidat, kind of running the product marketing and messaging and positioning for the company. And it's been a lot of fun, Rob. It's been a lot of changes going on, especially in the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, you think? Well, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. So why don't we get going here?
Hey, Rob, it's interesting, right? Since we partnered and have looked at this and, kind of taken the technology that you guys have created and really built that into, an interesting offering from our perspective. I think, what we need to really understand is, what people are thinking in relation to prevention and detection and, and identification of problems. And what this all means as kind of a bigger picture and what CyberSense really brings to the table for customers, right? Because that's a hugely important technology piece that you guys have developed and have brought to market. So can you talk a little bit more about the strategic entities of all those pieces?
Sure. So I really think that prevention is just part of the total equation. It's really important to understand that CyberSense is not just your everyday prevention or firewall or intrusion detection type of tool. And don't get me wrong, if your IT or and SecOps teams can stop ransomware from entering the building, that's fantastic. But to your point earlier, Bill, there's a lot of changes, right? As we were kind of joking about before the question was asked. Threat actors are definitely finding a way in, and this is where CyberSense comes into play. Unlike other solutions on the market, the focus of CyberSense is detecting anomalies and within customer data. So CyberSense really, where our bread and butter is to ensure data integrity. And that is by detecting data corruption, providing detailed forensic reports on any file that might be impacted, including databases, mind you, and then being able to identify and validate that you have a clean data to go back to, whether that be in backups, snapshots, and making sure that all of those are available for a rapid and intelligent recovery. That's kind of one of the key differentiators too, is just being able to do that smarter recovery. And what better way to make sure that your prevention measures are working than to focus on the data itself and to look for signs of corruption from ransomware with incredible accuracy. One of the differentiators with CyberSense is that we can detect ransomware. We have an SLA actually in place that is 99.99% sure that we are able to detect ransomware with that percentage of accuracy. And then when the prevention layers fail, we can help customers find that last good version, that that data that is good for restoration so that you're not getting yourself into a vicious cycle, and curate a smarter recovery. So we work with Infinidat, with you guys, Bill, to help our customers recover quicker with less data loss and minimize both the hard and soft costs of a cyber recovery. And I think if you talk to anybody who's ever had to be on the side of a cyber recovery, the soft costs, I don't think they'd ever say the word soft costs. They're all very hard things to do.
They're big, right? I mean, we see it every day, right? If prevention worked, if prevention worked, some of us wouldn't be in business, and the fact of the matter is it's hugely important. With us, the primary solutions that we work within and the enterprises that we support, right? Because we're that Fortune 2000 family jewels, center of the data center, enterprise class, high performance, high availability solution that people put their most critical data on, right? And they have to think they have to think recovery first. It's really interesting. I think the paradigm is changing pretty dramatically. And when we started looking at who to partner with on this, it was pretty obvious based on what Index Engines was doing and the capabilities of CyberSense that it made a lot of sense to look at this technology very seriously and figure out the right way to integrate it, because it does provide that high value detection capability, which you absolutely have to be assured of your data recovery, without a doubt.
All right, Bill, this one's for you. You just mentioned, the value prop between our two companies and our two products. CyberSense is the power behind InfiniSafe cyber detection, but it's part of a much bigger strategy. Can you take us through how Infinidat approaches cybersecurity and recovery?
Yeah, I think it's hugely important. And if we didn't have CyberSense, right, we'd all be talking about, 2 out of the 3 legs of a pretty important stool that you have to kind of use to prop up your whole cyber strategy. We're really focused on what we're calling now next gen data protection and recovery. And it's not about the traditional backup methods anymore, right? I mean, I came from that world for many, many years. And when you think about all the great things that we've gotten out of traditional backup, or even what been more recently referred to as modern backup and things like that, and recovery, this is a step further than even that. So we're really focusing on next gen data protection and recovery. But the subline, right, kind of like the subtitle to that thing is, it's got to be a cyber first and a recovery focused strategy, right? You can't just think about backing it up in traditional methods. You have to have a way to think about protecting the data. We have a bunch of underlying technology as part of our InfiniSafe technology that does things like, guaranteed immutable snapshots, right? Logical and remote air gapping. Being able to spin up a fenced forensic environment to be able to help validate your data, and near instantaneous recovery, because we have a very efficient snapshot methodology and we assure and guarantee immutability. We can make sure that data can't be tampered with. You can't even go to the support department and sign an affidavit saying remove that immutable snapshot, right? Immutable to us means immutable, and that is the core elements. And when we tie that into what another piece of our InfiniSafe technology called InfiniSafe Automated Cyber Protection, we now can take that technology and integrate it into the SecOps environment, right? Into those environments that are monitoring and trying to do that prevention across the attack plane within companies, and being able to holistically tie into them and create events, proactive events, should something be seen in the security environment, and trigger protection elements back on our systems, right? So, IBM QRadar picks up something. It looks interesting. Well, you're not going to wait for the security guy to click a button and call the storage guy and say, hey, something funky is happening. Maybe you should do a snapshot. just make it happen, right? Snapshots in our systems are completely instantaneous, and there's no overhead to the system whatsoever. So you pay no penalty to do it. So, it's all about reducing the threat window and potentially the proliferation of corruption. But that's where that's where CyberSense comes in, right? The technology that we partnered with you, we call it InfiniSafe Cyber Detection. But again, you guys are the key to what makes that all work. We tie it in from an orchestration perspective and things like that. But we can take that security event, create snapshots from it, and then automatically queue it to the back end to InfiniSafe Cyber Detection, right, powered by CyberSense, and put it to a scanning queue. So you don't even have to worry about, that process. It's fully orchestrated from end to end. The data's getting scanned, and you're going to know the state of your data. This is above and beyond the normal scheduled stuff, right? Because when we schedule things, there's still gaps. So we really want the focus of InfiniSafe ACP was to try to eliminate those gaps as much as we can, based on being proactive with events that might happen in the environment. And then, because of the functionality that we have within our snapshot technology, we guarantee the recovery time objectives associated with recovering snapshots. In our primary storage, we guarantee any size data set recovery in a minute or less, and it's typically seconds, right? I mean, the lawyers get involved and they say a minute, but really by the time you click the button and the screen refreshes, the data's back. So, it's hugely important to have that recovery approach. Everything, and I hope you agree with this, and I think you will, everything that everybody should be doing today to protect their data. The question is, does it support my business in doing fast recovery of a cyber event? Period. Right? Everything else from that is secondary.
And what I love about what you just described is how you're bridging a gap, right, within an organization as well. You're not only talking about SecOps, you're talking about SecOps working with IT on the storage side, the storage administrators, and this is really creating a end-to-end solution from SecOps all the way through backup and recovery that really covers an entire organization for that critical data. So 100% agree with you, that it's all about, ultimately it comes down to the data, and it comes down to data integrity.
It does, right? And, and with the levels of accuracy that you guys provide in detection, the reason that that's hugely important is, first and foremost, false positives, right? You get none,
right?
Whose security teams or storage teams have time to, try to predetermine or determine any alerts or events that may have happened as to whether they're real or not, right? When you get results from a tool, you want them to be real and you want them to be actionable. And the CyberSense technology, does exactly that. So that's a time saver. Minutes in a cyber event can mean millions, right? I mean, it's that dramatic an effect of where you are in order, from a time perspective as to when you can start to recover your data.
Yeah. Hey, one of the major airlines, keep them nameless at this point, but one of the major airlines has come out publicly and said, if we're down for more than a couple of days, we're done. So, to your point, minutes versus hours versus days, it's just, it could be the whether the lights are on or whether they're off. So really important.
Yeah. I live here in the Vegas Valley, and not too long ago, one of the big casinos, it was a public thing, MGM.
Yep.
10 days, 100, they estimated at minimum of $110 million. People standing in the lobbies, not being able to check in, the casino floor machines dark, and that's, relatively speaking, to some of them that are out there today, that's small.
Yeah. So I think that's a perfect segue to our next topic.
All right. So Rob, we've talked about recovery, right? And that's all about where it's at. Right. Give us some, what are the insights that you see, right? What are the important elements, that you guys and the environments that your technology is working in, and the kinds of things that you're doing in order to, make that effective and, try to help mitigate the cost of these ransomware attacks?
So I think it's super important. Some people listening might know what some of these costs are, but I'm just going to take you through at a high level. But a smart recovery is one where you can trust that the data that you're recovering is in fact recoverable. You curate a recovery with the data that you know to be clean, and you can recover quickly. We just talked about that, right? And minimizing the impact on the organization and the customers. But without a smart recovery, or curated recovery, whatever your term that you want to use for it, it might not be over even if you end up paying the ransom. So this is for those of you who may not be considering looking at our solution. Let me try and break it down just a little bit. So there is the cost of the ransom, and basically the threat actors are saying cash, check, or crypto, right? How are you going to get out of this? The easy way is to just go ahead and pay the ransom. However, there's a lot of costs that come into account that don't include the ransom. Did they give you the right encryption keys? Did the encryption keys unlock everything? Probably the answer is no. Even after a ransom is paid, there is a significant portion of work to be done to recover more data. So financially, I think it's Gartner analyst Paul Furtado who said that the cost of an attack is usually 10x the cost of the ransom, whether it comes from downtime, lost data, and then even reputational damage. So if you're down for a few days, take for instance MGM, take for instance an airline that may be hit, you're going to be coming up against reputational costs. Other analysts state that the average cost of an attack is about 5 million, but we've seen attacks grow north of even 100 million, and hundreds of thousands even for smaller organizations. Some attacks get measured in lives. If a healthcare system was impacted, there was one, I think it was the Sandworm organization, where they had impacted medical records, and the cost of life has not really been calculated from that particular attack. And then backups. Backups are now a target. And a library system in the UK was hit and took the better part of 6 months to come back with a recovery. And they still, to this day, don't know what data they've lost 100%. They have no idea if they were able to recover to a point, and do not have an accurate number of how much data they in fact lost during that attack. So without a plan like Infinidat has, your backups are going to cost you, say, I don't know, 90%, 92% of attacks that are being targeted are successful within the backups. So again, is it worth the reputational risk? Letters from vendors, leaked customer info, down patient records, etc. Is it worth that cost to put your company at risk if you do not have a smart recovery plan in place? So I think the reputational costs could go well north of all those physical costs that we've kind of talked about as well.
Yeah, the areas around the backup targeting, right, are kind of they're well documented now. And again, kind of to the point I was starting to make earlier, is that recovery strategy has to take all of those elements into consideration. And that's why with us, focusing on primary is so important, and being able to recover quickly from a primary data protection methodology that again thinks about cyber as the primary reason you have to recover.
Yeah,
right.
agreed.
That's that recovery focused mentality and methodology that everything else has to support.
Agreed. All right, Bill, I know you've done a great job impressing me, hopefully impressing everybody else, but Infinidat is impressive. Lots of innovation, um, high performance, and extremely reliable. Within the last few years, you've put a lot of effort into security as well. What advice do you have for organizations that are worried about their data?
Look at everything, right? Question everything, you know, blank slate it, right? I mean, nobody should have go into any of this with a predetermined mindset that what they think they may have been doing in the past is right. You know, look at all the technologies that make up the solution, right? Can they be integrated? Are they stovepiped? You know, are the key infrastructure elements well addressed? You know, again, we live at the heart of the data center. People buy our systems to run, their most critical applications and host their critical data on. So, our strategy has actually changed fairly significantly to be, a very technically forward kind of company with great resiliency, and we provide, we've always offered 100% availability in our platforms, and we provide performance guarantees to our customers. But right now, that's tertiary and the third and fourth thing on the list that they're looking at, right? What they're thinking about first and foremost is, how does it fit into my cyber strategy? And then, how do I make it an effective use of my overall infrastructure? And then they're worried about, the performance and availability aspects. So we really kind of led the industry when we started talking about our InfiniSafe technology and what it does. And all that core technology is built into the system. We don't bolt it on. It's fully integrated, it's tightly integrated, it's included. So all those core elements are nothing that you even have to think about. They're there. You just basically have to, turn it on and configure it. And after that, it's really easy. We don't have implementations from a cyber strategy perspective on primary storage that take weeks or months to implement. It's literally there. You turn it on, you start doing immutable snapshots. We have orchestration tools, we have automation tools, we have Ansible modules to help customers with all of this stuff. And we have, a very unique capability, I think, in the industry from a primary storage perspective, that gives us a big heads up on most of our competition around what they're doing in primary, because most of our competitors are thinking about it as a storage-centric strategy, and we're really trying to look and broaden that into the security environment with our InfiniSafe ACP, and then being able to have CyberSense at the back end of that whole strategy to orchestrate it from end to end gives us that I think that very unique solution that I can't tell you how cost effective it is, right? Because the numbers that we talk about, if you have a cyber attack and you can't recover data, are enormous.
Right. And we outlined some of those costs. I think time to recovery in and of itself, and being able to trust the data, that the data is clean when you do that recovery, minimizes that loss, minimizes those costs, and it helps a company recover faster, recover quicker, recover smarter, and just flat out recover from one of these devastating attacks. So often we've heard of a company recovering and then they actually get attacked again because they recovered the ransomware, along with everything. So it's really it's to your point, being able to get back with all the features that InfiniSafe offers within within the Infinidat platforms, it's huge for customers.
Yeah.
So this is all great advice.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. We
No
agree,
worries.
right? I mean, it's hugely important, and again, it's common sense, right? I mean, it's not like we're trying to do something that requires highly technical, highly complex, highly integrated systems. It's common sense thinking to how to make our product strategically better for our customers in the industry.
Awesome. Again, more great advice. Bill, we've covered a lot today. but alas, it's time to wrap up our talk. A couple of things. Let me just highlight a couple, and by all means, Bill, feel free to fire in a couple comments here. But we've really talked about going beyond prevention. We've talked about bridging the gap between SecOps and recovery, and your storage teams and your data prevention teams. Without that, with peace of mind, so to speak, intact, knowing that your data it has integrity, that it is recoverable. We're looking at really, I think, from a storage platform perspective, we're looking at resilience holistically. From the InfiniSafe feature set, from the core capabilities of Infinidat, combined with the capabilities of CyberSense, to help guarantee that we're able to not only detect with high degrees of accuracy, but we're able to recover quickly through the inherent features within Infinidat and InfiniSafe. And then obviously we talked about costs a lot, right? We talked about the cost of an attack, and can you really afford not to protect yourself? And then that really kind of leads us to the last step, and I think that's developing a plan. How to kind of create this plan, how to get started. I think regardless of where you're watching this or how you're watching this, there's a lot of great information. You can look in the captions for this particular podcast and/or the comments for the links of what we discussed today. So, Bill, any last comments before we sign off?
Like you said, we've covered a lot of ground, right? And we could talk about statistics and things like that all day. But,
Right.
Again, I think the most important part is the plan, right? Because the plan is gonna drive all the other elements around it. And I think, we have a unique position, partnered together with what we provide as this, a very comprehensive, a very in-depth, solution capability that's that isn't a verticalized stack, right? There's companies out there that we're in, competitors that we that we get compared to every day, and it's very easy for us to differentiate what we do, especially when we start, again, going back to that SecOps thing. It's beyond storage these days, right? The storage team isn't the only one who's managing cybersecurity and storage. It has to be part of that holistic plan, as you mentioned, in order to be effective, right? Otherwise you're tying one shoe. You're looking to trip over the laces on the other. With that, we love partnering with you guys. You guys have always been right there with us, standing shoulder to shoulder with us, and getting us through, helping us get our customers on board and understand why this is important, why your technology works the way it does, how intuitive this whole process is. That what amazes me is when you talk enterprise, typically the next word after enterprise is complexity, right? This is super simple. This is super easy. When people see the combination of interfaces and management capabilities between the two products, you almost say, well, it might almost look too easy, but the reality is it is. When we show people demos of InfiniSafe cyber detection, which is again CyberSense under the hood, and we take them through, the interfaces and how it sets up and the alerting, they're blown away. And the level of granularity that they see and the detection is amazing.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey, on behalf of Bill Basinas from Infinidat and myself, Rob Mossi from Index Engines, I just want to thank everyone today for viewing this CyberSense Insights Connect. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.